welcome back. Thrilled to have you here today with this very special guest, a dear, dear friend, Daniella Farin.
Woo!
Uh, ooh, so nice to have you. Thanks, Daniella, for joining.
Sure.
I'll just say a few words about you. Daniella Farin is an amazing entrepreneur and fashion designer. She designs all sorts of beautiful clothing under her own line, Daniella Faye. It ships all over the world. She's originally from Chicago, Illinois, but makes her home outside of Jerusalem with her husband and three beautiful children. And she's been featured in all sorts of publications and blogs, both in the United States and Israel and around the world. And really excited to have you here today.
I'm excited to be here.
Okay, we're going to dive right in. So, as you know, this summit is called the Empowered Woman Summit. And I want to just kind of go right to the heart of it, which is something that you and I have spoken about a lot, this idea of imposter syndrome. You didn't go to fashion school, you didn't go to business school, and yet you have this incredible business that you've built from the ground up. So, how did you do it? And how do you overcome those feelings?
So those are great questions. Basically, I just started, like my husband is like, I had all these ideas. I'm just like, I'm gonna do my own type of college. I'm gonna like go do ceramics and I'm gonna do jewelry and I'm gonna do glass blowing and silversmith and all these different things. And I did sell my jewelry from a young age to stores from the time I was 16. And basically, I was doing all these different courses, and my husband's like, "Why don't you just choose one thing and you should go with it?" So we got married 9 years ago, and I made my own head covering because I cover my hair. And basically, I walked outside, and people were like, "Oh my God, where'd you get that? Where'd you get that?" And I was like, "I made it," and they basically wanted to buy it, so I started making them right away. And my husband's like, "Just make a 7 week plan, just 7 weeks." So I was like, okay. So I started writing it down, like day one, like buy needle and threads, two scissors, like three, get a logo, four tags, like business cards, like every single move for the next 7 weeks. And that was really it. I just did it. And I was like, all right, we're gonna do a pop-up now. And I did my first pop-up and we did really well at the first pop-up. And just kind of just kept doing things. And it led to a store a few years after that, like around 4 years after that. It led to a store in the middle of Jerusalem, the center of town. And the store was small, but it wasn't, it was a little bit too big for just head coverings. And I always wanted to be a fashion designer. Since I was like 11, I was like, I'm going to be a fashion designer when I'm older. And I went to a class when I was little, when I was around 11, and I always told the teacher, like, I told her what I wanted to make and I wanted her to make it. And she was trying to teach me how to do the pattern and to cut it and to sew it and to like measure things. And I was just terrible with math and not good at it. And I didn't understand how to use a pattern and make a pattern. And I knew like exactly what I wanted to design, but I didn't know how to use the actual pattern and do the technical part of it. And I was just like, all right, I'll trade you like my necklace if you can make me this dress. And she traded my jewelry and she made it like what I wanted. And I also designed my 8th grade graduation outfit and I knew exactly what I wanted, but the technical part was always hard for me. And I still knew I was going to be a fashion designer. And she's like, well, I can't do it like this. Like you need to learn how to, use a pattern and you need to learn how to sew this way. And I just wasn't interested. I'm like, I can't do it. So I stopped then. But in high school, I told my mom, like, I want to make myself a few dresses. And she's like, just do it. Go to a seamstress near you. So I went and I bought fabrics from Tel Aviv and I went to a seamstress and I was like, can you make me these 3 dresses? And she made them for me. And I always just knew like I wanted to be a fashion designer. And I basically, when I got the store, I said it's a little bit too big for just head coverings. I really want to be a fashion designer. So I called my mom up again and she's like, Danielle, just do it. And I was so nervous because I don't know how to design clothing. I didn't go to fashion school. And basically I asked around, I found a pattern maker who makes patterns. And I went to her and I didn't know what I was talking about. She looked at me as if I was like really dumb. And she told me years later, she's like, I never thought you would make it. Like I thought, leave after like one time. And she would ask me like, okay, how big would you want? What do you want? What's the detail on here? I didn't know anything. I'm like, I don't know. She's like, but you need to know. And, and I was like, I don't know. So I literally had to work with her for the past however many years and, make things up as I went along and learned on the way with all the mistakes. Like one time I made this dress and I remember buying a fabric that was stretchy, and she told me like, you have to make the same type of fabric you have to manufacture. But I didn't understand what she was saying and understand why it was important. So I basically made the sample. It fit great. It looked great. I bought different fabrics for the production. I went into production and then I got the stuff and I couldn't move my arms because that original fabric was stretchy, but the other fabric wasn't. And that's why it's important. I had no idea.
So what did you do with the dresses?
Sell them for like nothing. I'm saying, or give them away to, most of them I sold for like a lot less because they were beautiful. They just weren't comfortable. Like you couldn't fit your arms, you couldn't move your arms. And people bought them for like 50 shekel. But same thing happened with me when I was, again, back in high school, and I decided I wanted to make, these head coverings that were just triangle head coverings. And the lady told me like, oh, I can make so many more if I cut it this way. And I was just like, sure. I didn't know what she was talking about. And when I got them, I realized what she was saying is that she was trying to get as many triangles as she could into the fabric. And what happened was that they weren't even. So you couldn't tie them evenly and it didn't look so nice. So I couldn't sell them for full price. And that day I was like, I'm not giving up. I bought all these fabrics. I spent all the money on the seamstress. I made all these things. I'm going to the closest store to my house. I'm going to tell them that I'm selling it to wholesale, like at cost, and that they can sell it for more. It's just like, I told them what happened and they bought it for cost and I didn't lose my money. So,
Wow.
yeah.
It's inspiring to hear you talk about this. And there's another guest that we spoke to that's on the program, who is a first-time director of a feature film. And it just reminds me, like the conversation that you and I are having, and also the one that I had with her, and also something that I've experienced. I mean, my background is in law, but I'm now a filmmaker. I didn't go to film school, and I've been on the set before, and I've had all these people around me that know the lighting and know the camera. And there's this like kind of panic that rises up, like, oh, they're going to know that I don't know. But you know what? I know my own stuff. I know my vision. And I think that that's what's so beautiful about what you're saying is don't get like, yes, details are important, but if the details are the thing that's holding you back, don't get bogged down in them. Think about your vision.
Go to school and they learn about all the technicalities and all the details and everything. But when it comes to the real world, they won't make that first step because they're so scared and they don't know how they're going to do it and how they're going to afford it and what's the first step. And they're scared of failure. And yeah, I'm not scared of failure. I did fail my whole life in school. I guess I was used to it. So I'm just like, what's the worst that can happen? Just do something and hopefully it will be good.
I love that. So, but how do you pick yourself up? Because certainly, I mean, now you're laughing and it's fine. But that day that you got the dresses and they don't fit, or when a manufacturer makes a mistake, or
and I went back to the factory and I was like, is it their fault? I didn't even know like whose fault it was. I didn't realize that it was the fabric and that's what happened. So I was like, oh my God, they ruined the sleeves. And I didn't even understand what was going on. And I didn't understand how to measure anything. Like I didn't understand anything. And it was like, it's scary. So I was just like, sweating and freaking out. And whatever, you just learn. Like I did another thing where I made tons of dresses and I bought these zippers that were gorgeous and I tried them at the store and they were fine. But once they were sewn onto the dress, they didn't work. And I didn't make one, sew it, then bring it home, try it on, open, close. So I had to bring all the dresses, buy new zippers, pay for them to resew it. So, I mean, it's tons of things that you learn, but I think that in any business, and if you go to school and if you go through any, line of work, you're going to make mistakes and you're going to learn from them and you got to move on. And there's so many things that happen now to this day that now that I'm an expert, I'm not an expert, still learning, but now that I know so much more than I did in the beginning, there's so many things that happen all the time, so many frustrating mistakes and complications that happen in this field, in this fashion field. It's like really hard, the wholesale retail business, and there's so many things that go wrong, and you just kind of laugh it off now because it's always going to happen. So I just like, what's the solution? What can we do? What's the best?
Right.
Like this,
Right.
I finally accepted it after this many years of I'm trying to think how many years, probably 4 years of wholesale, which is another story I could tell you how I started. I was how many years is it? Wait, maybe it's actually, oh, it's almost 3 years of wholesale. And I basically saw that there's always mistakes, and I would have like a mental breakdown in the past because it was so scary and it would take over my whole life. And I'm like, oh my God. But now I'm just like, you know what? Forget about it. Like I laugh it off, and I gave it to like one of my amazing assistants who I just like, I split the work with, and I kind of give her, and I'm just like, you know what? She's taking the pressure. Like I'm taking it off of me, and
Yeah.
finally learning to cope with all this pressure. But I would like to tell you how I started the wholesale.
Please. Absolutely. I'd love to hear.
So basically, I was manufacturing in Israel, which is amazing. And I love making things in Israel and having it made in Israel. We still do our head coverings in Israel. But it wasn't profitable and it was super expensive to do it here. So I basically had my third baby. I was in Chicago and I was at my parents' house, and she was like a few months old, probably like 4 months old. And I was like, you know what, that's it. I'm going to move out of Israel. I'm going to start manufacturing all over the world. And I started just messaging people that I knew in the field and asking them questions. Do you know any factories? Do you know anyone? That's how I got to everything, to the factories in Israel, to the factories abroad, just by, asking people. So really just ask. Like if you don't know anything and if you want to move ahead in anything, ask people around you. People know the answers and people are willing to help. So I basically just asked around, and I got to this guy who, manufactures abroad. And I was just like, that's it. I'm manufacturing abroad and I'm going to sell wholesale. So I just like made the decision when she was 4 months old. So then I got back to Israel and I flew like probably the next month with my baby. She was probably 5 months. And by the time she was 8 months, she flew like 8 times with me. Yeah. I was like, this is my business partner.
It's amazing.
Fabric for blankets, and she was taking a nap, I'd use the fabric, and I just take a piece of fabric and it was her blanket. But yeah, I was just like decided, and then I was like, okay, I'm going to go to New York and I'm going to go to a trade show and I'm going to sell my stuff wholesale. I had no idea what or how to do that, and I'm just like, I'm going to do it. And so I was like, what do you do? And I asked people around me, and I took the samples, I made samples, and I brought them to the show and I sold them wholesale, got into stores, and that's it. I just took that jump, and ever since I've been doing it. You just got to go in.
I
Like,
love it. I mean, I love it. I think what you said is so important. You have to be willing to ask questions and realize that people are okay to help you. I think we often are intimidated to ask people that are more experts than us. Like maybe they'll think we're in competition, maybe they're not going to want to help, but there's enough success to go around.
people ask me all the time, and I help people out all the time. Like I'll do an hour or two phone call with whoever, like random people who want to know more about the field.
Yeah.
I ask other people, people are willing to help. And I don't know if you're embarrassed to ask or sometimes your ego, like, but yeah, could be either one. And definitely ask.
So that, I mean, you sort of touched on it, but you do have three small kids and you're building a business. And I mean, I want to talk about it. Like, how do you manage the balancing, but also how do you manage the guilt? Or maybe you don't have guilt, or how do I'm sorry, maybe you don't. I don't know, but I told you I'm just gonna go right to it. Like, we don't have time. It's a mess around.
Not like a businesswoman. So we
Yeah.
have an agreement. When we did the business, he loves that I have my own business, and one of us has to be with the kids, especially in Israel, especially during Corona when they're
This is
like,
your husband. I cut you off. Yeah.
who is a very talented musician and also like salesman and so many other things, massage therapist, so many things, artist. But he basically loves kids and he's so good with them. And he saw I was happy. He also helps out with the business. So he does work with us. We work together. And basically, a lot of times he'll be with the kids though, because it's impossible to do everything. And we have an agreement. Like I do 9 months, and then he does life. The life sentence. I make that joke all the time. But he really like they are like they only call my mom always laughs. They're like, we've never heard them say mommy. I'm always like when they're teenagers, they're gonna come to me and they're gonna be embarrassed of him. And even now, like my 5-year-old daughter will be like, "Mommy, I need to tell you a secret," and she'll like pull me into the room, and he's like jealous of it, and she tells me like her biggest I don't know fear thoughts and whatever.
I think that's really special. I think it's incredible to show a different model to your kids. I think it, and they're so proud of you, and look what you're accomplishing, and look at the legacy that you're giving to them, and especially to your daughters, to show them a woman in business. Um, so I want to speak a little bit about like the extra parts. People are going to soon learn this about you. You have a very strong social media presence. I mean, certainly I know you sell on the platform, and that's a great way for business, but it's more than that. Like you really are an influencer and you really have made a name for yourself. And I'm so curious about that. Was that an intentional choice? Did it just happen? Like, why is it important to you? What are the values? Like, I'd love to just hear you talk about that. What does that mean?
Sure. So basically, I am really bad at technology. Like the fact that I learned how to do Zoom is like amazing. I like don't. I like my mom. Like I don't know how to turn on a computer. I do. Okay. But I'm like I probably don't know how to like open an Excel sheet. Like I'm type it into the search. So that would be my guess. So, like I'm terrible with anything that has to do with computers and technology. And basically, I was on Facebook when I started. That's how I started. I was like, I'm doing a pop up, and I would post in Facebook groups, and I'd post on my feed or my whatever page, and I would post on friends, and I would do raffles and giveaways, and that's how like people knew my name and people knew about my pop ups. So I would do everything on Facebook. And my sister in law a few years ago was like, Daniela, you need to be on Instagram. Like it's the biggest thing. And I was just like, no, I have Facebook. It's good enough. Like people know about our pop-ups. Thank God it's great. Like I don't want another like social media thing. Like I don't need another thing. Like if it wasn't for my business, I wouldn't be like on all day and every day. Like I don't post on my personal Facebook page like every day or like updates about my personal life. It's just I don't feel a need to. I can share it with friends and I can share it with my family. So basically, my sister-in-law was like, you need to do it. And I was like, fine. I was like, how do I do this? And I started like uploading things and figuring it out and following other people and following influencers. And it's like, all right, I see how they do this. The influencers are like shouting out these brands and okay, I can do this. So I like would message the influencers, these big influencers right away. And I'd be like, hey, I'm Daniella Faye, I live in Israel. And I would love if we can collaborate. And I would just send them product and they would post for me. And it was huge, especially back then, because it wasn't so over like flowed
Saturated. Yeah.
back then. So I really got a ton of attention to our brand and it was amazing. And it really spread like wildfire. Like people would be in Israel and they would hear my voice and they'd turn around and be like, are you Daniella Faye? Like everywhere I go, like in wherever I go, like people recognize me who are Anglo because I speak in English and people really like recognize me from I don't know Mexico and all these places. Like people came to our store from Argentina and from Gibraltar and from anywhere like India, like amazing. So it was really awesome to collaborate with all these celebrities on Instagram. And I also did besides for that, we did a Golden Globe gift bag, like a swag bag, a celebrity gift bag. So we gave 100 handmade turbans in the swag bag, and that like was on the Times of Israel, and that also was really great exposure. And I just basically got on social media, and I also just like doing it. I think it's fun. It was just natural to me. I love just I don't know. It was just easy, Insta storying and I love sharing things. I love like in general sharing good things with like my friends and people, like good deals and good restaurants. So this was just like a platform where I can share with the whole world like amazing things. So I'll be like, wow, something's on sale. There's some beautiful Israeli handmade, jewelry or artwork, and I'll just share it. And I can give exposure to other people and help them out. And I can also just show people unique and cool things around Israel and around the world.
how do you not let it take over your life? And how are you able to not be intimidated by it? Like,
Right.
and 30 minutes taking a selfie, like, how, you don't have time for that. How
Yeah.
do you do that?
So really, for me, it's so natural that I don't think about it. It's not like, okay, now I have to open my camera and take a video and post it and write something and sit here for 10 minutes. I'll like do it really quickly and I'm done. So I don't think about it. It's just something that just like happens naturally. And I don't post when I don't feel like it. So yeah, that's
Yeah,
it's just natural. And then another thing I want to say, because you said why is it important, why, how'd you get into it, all that stuff. Me and my husband Dave are huge foodies. We love food. We love eating out. We love cooking. So social media was a great place, and Instagram and Facebook stories now they have to share recipes and just be able to cook and also learn from so many people and be able to collaborate with restaurants, which is like my favorite thing, like my dream. I would just like eat every day at different places if I could. So we collaborate with a lot of different restaurants and it's amazing. That's like so fun. It's just a fun part of my job, which I love.
totally. So, I mean, we don't have so much time, unfortunately. I could talk to you for hours, as you know, but I think what I'd love to hear as we close, you are a religious woman, an Orthodox woman living in Israel, with your roots in the United States, and it's not really that's not the typical picture that we see a businesswoman who is also Orthodox and a mom and this. And I'm sure people ask you all the time, not only just about the balance, but how you're able to maintain the different values in your life. So, what advice do you give to other women similarly situated who might be trying to get into business or just are ambitious and have their own career goals?
I just say go for your dream. So if your dream is to be a mom and you want to be like the best mom in the world, you gotta go and be the best mom in the world. Everyone has like a mission here in this world. If your job is to be like the best daughter, the best sister, or if it's to be an accountant, or if it's to be somebody who does volunteer work every single day, like go for whatever it is you want and don't give up. And doesn't matter what anyone else says, does not matter. You do what you feel like you're supposed to do. If you're supposed to, I don't know, be an actor, a singer, or there's a solution for everything. So especially in the religious world, if you want to be an actor or a singer, we only sing to women. So there are places that are just for women that you teach kids just for women. There's solutions for everything. I believe there's a solution to any problem. So you just go for what it is you want to do, and I think you'll be successful. You just focus on one thing. That's the most important thing. Focus on one goal, because if you're focused on a million things, it will never get done. Same thing in the beginning when Dave was like, just focus on one thing, and look what happened. Like,
Right.
so just focus on that one thing and don't give up and just stick to what you think that you're supposed to be doing and do the best job that you can do and don't listen to anyone else.
I love it. And what?
Like, don't listen to anyone else if they're putting you down. Listen to them if they're
If they're building you up, then you can listen, then take notes. um, I just want to say, I mean, I think also
I said, listen to me. You can do this. You got this.
um, I mean, obviously we're dear friends and I'm so grateful to have you, but I think just talking to you about this in a more professional way, what really shows through, Danielle, is you know who you are. That's very important. I think women need to know who they are. And even if that means it's going on a journey to figuring out what it is, you know who you are and you're genuine and it shines through. And that's also, I believe, why you've been successful and able to connect to so many thousands and thousands of women all over the world.
It takes time, but yeah, I'm like, yeah, pretty sure I know who I am. The key is accepting who you are. That's what it is. You don't really need to know who you are. Some people look for themselves in all different countries and places. The key is acceptance. And the more you accept yourself as you are like perfect. The God made you perfect, exactly what you're meant to be and who you're meant to be. And the more you realize that you are amazing and you're supposed to be exactly how you're supposed to be, the more you can flourish, because you can be like, I'm supposed to be doing this. This is what I'm supposed to be. And you don't focus on the negative things. You just focus on the amazing qualities that you have, and it will bring you life and it will bring you to your goal, because you'll only be focused on the good and it will really get you there. And acceptance, like just don't try and change yourself. Accept yourself. The more you accept yourself, the better you'll be. That's what I think.
I love it. That's a perfect way to end. Thank you so much, Daniela. And definitely follow her on Instagram. We'll link to everything. Buy one of her beautiful dresses or head coverings. And thank you so much. We'll speak soon.